We are still in Parys, the Free State one, on the banks of the Vaal River that draws the border between Gauteng and the Free State, for round 5 of the 2023 South African Rally Raid Championship. The Saturday of the event hosted the second of the weekend's double-header races. Welcome to the second Parys 400 in as many days, where all the action is once again brought to you by Toyota, Ford and Parys. The double-header format has featured during the last few seasons and brings some extra pressure for the teams, while also offering fans of Rally Raid racing a double dose of action to be enjoyed over the course of a single weekend. For the crews taking part, this also means that there are double points on offer, and a good performance in Parys could well swing the eventual outcome of the championship. Where the Friday of the race weekend was dry, largely windless and warm, this Saturday dawned crisp and cold, with an icy wind that chilled the spectators, but helped the competitors to find their way around the winding route as the dust cleared somewhat quicker than the day before. But with an all-new route that featured fresh challenges, the race was always going to be a tough one, especially following directly after round 4, which dealt many blows of its own to both the crews and their racing machines. Saturday's race comprised a Parys qualifying race of 18 kilometers, which started at 7:30 in the morning. This was followed by 2 race loops of 170 kilometers each, with the first getting underway at 9:30, starting from the Afridome in Parys. It has become the norm to bring you the action blow by blow, class by class, and the first class to receive attention is the highly competitive Class T1 for thoroughbred racing machines. The men making the most waves so far in 2023 are the defending champions from last year, Eben Basson and Navi Leander Pienaar. The Team Hilux Rally Raid crew extended their points lead over nearest rivals Johan de Bruin and Gerard Skitter by winning the race day before. Let's hear from both de Bruin and Basson before the start of the qualifying race.
I think our game plan worked out for us. Racing is never over when you cross the line. So yesterday we went a well day. We had a good day yesterday, and hope today for the same.
Yeah, we're trying our best. I must say, we've given it all yesterday. We had a very clean run. It's actually a bit disheartening not catching up. You're still pulling away a little bit. So today we're just going to try harder.
It was 7:30 once more in the Free State metropolis of Parys, which means it was time to go racing. 18 kilometers of gravel roads to the east of the town stood between the Class T1 crews and the qualifying results. And qualifying is an important part of any race, so everyone had everything to gain and even more to lose. The Dutch pairing of Dave Klaassen and Tessa Ruth had become a regular sight on South African soil in their Redline VK50, but could only manage the 4th fastest time. Someone with a clear aim of qualifying under the front runners were father and son Johan and Sean van Staden. But the race was cut short when this happened. Fortunately, they were both uninjured and will live to fight another day, although the same could not be said of their trusty Renault Duster. The crew at the 4th fastest time in quali was none other than German ace Jürgen Schroeder, with Stuart Gregory in the Navi seat of their Nissan Navara. But they were beaten to the line by championship hopefuls Johan de Bruin and Gerard Skitter, who stopped the clock 14 seconds faster than Schroeder in their Redline Revo. Ahead of de Bruin, yet another Schroeder, Jürgen's son Daniel, with South African Navi Ryan Bland doing the reading duties in their Nissan Navara. The gap was just 3 seconds, while another 3 seconds was all that separated Schroeder in second and the crew who claimed the pole position. That crew was pre-race favourites Eben Basson and Leander Pienaar. The Team Hilux Rally Raid squad was perfectly poised to take on the main race. There it is, confirmation of Eben Basson's qualifying victory ahead of Daniel Schroeder and Johan de Bruin, with the second Schroeder in 4th. Names such as Van Staden was absent after his role, and youngster Jaden Els, who did not make the start due to difficulties the day before. There was very little time to gather one's thoughts between the qualifying and the race proper, because at 9:30 on the Saturday morning, it was go time in Parys for the second time in as many events. The crews in the Class T1 Brigade were gunning for glory. But as they said in the Highlander film from the 80s, there can be only one. Schroeder Jr. and Ryan Bland had every intention to be that one crew after qualifying in second. But they soon had to throw in the towel due to technical difficulties. The Dutch crew of Dave Klaassen and Tessa Ruth maintained their good finishing record on South African soil by once again making it safely to the end of the race, albeit not quite in contention for the upper placings. That's because the fight for the top podium spots was a fierce one between De Bruyn, the remaining Schroeder, and of course the leader Besson. De Bruyn, who had Besson firmly in his sights, first had to fend off the attention of Schroeder Sr. The red-lined Revo crew managed to do this as they reached the end with a comfortable margin over the German. But his fight was with the Team Hilux rally raid car Besson, who had the upper hand initially until disaster struck. The normally reliable V8 engine of the Hilux lost fuel pressure, power, and gave up the ghost. They were towed back to the DSP by a fellow competitor, but this resulted in an exclusion from the results. It meant that De Bruyn's overall time was therefore more than enough to claim the victory. But the Pretoria-based businessman then had his efforts undone by 2 penalties incurred at road crossings totaling a full 20 minutes. This handed the win to Schroeder. In the end, the results showed a 10-minute victory for the German ahead of the luckless De Bruyn, with Dutchman Klaassen rounding out the Class T1 podium. The Dutch crew was enjoying the taste of the victory bubbly, while De Bruyn was probably thinking of what could have been, while the German on the top step was enjoying his first victory on SA soil for quite some time.
Thanks, it was very nice. Can't really remember when my last trophy on South African racing, so it was a nice race for us, and okay, we did well.
And onto Class T, where just like the day before, round 5 was once again reduced to a 2-horse race between Hendrik and Heinrich Du Plessis in their Ford Ranger, and Skalkberg and Henk Janssen van Vieren in the King Price Extreme VW Amarok. Unfortunately for their fans, this race didn't materialize, as Du Plessis was once again forced to retire early on in the race, leaving Berger to have the playfield for himself. The man also enjoys an adventure, and here in Parys he organised himself one by fighting with no power steering on Loop 1, and then hooking the stricken Besson Hilux behind his Amarok and towing it all the way home. But the big man collected a bag of points while rival Du Plessis didn't.
Yes, you need some luck. Sometimes you need luck, and I'll take it open hands today. Take the points. It's still a long season, 2 rounds left, and see if we can do something about the championship.
Next up, we move to the big fight in the class with the small cars, but don't be fooled by their size. These Class G side-by-side machines are purpose-built racing cars that get up to speed quickly, handle like crazy, eat rough terrain for breakfast, and stop on a dime. We caught up with round 4 winner Jeff Minnaert, who knew that this was a brand new race.
It's 400 kilometers, and I think we're in for a good chance again today, so we're excited.
Times between these races are usually close, so Ewald van Rensburg would have been a little disappointed with only setting the 5th fastest time in the Pirelli qualifying race. The gap to the 4th fastest car of rival François de Witt was only a mere 3 seconds, while title hopefuls Glenn Turan and Craig Galvin qualified in 3rd, a further 8 seconds up the road. It didn't take much to figure out that the stage was set for another epic battle between the Mosters and winners of round 4 Jeff Minnaert and Rodney Burke. Minnaert may have said that qualifying is not that important to him, in which case he would have been satisfied with setting the 2nd fastest time in his hydropower equipment Can-Am Maverick. On the flip side, Minnaert was already 40 seconds behind before the real race even started, because that was by how much the Mosters managed to win the qualifying race. The Motonetics Maverick stopped the clock on 11 minutes and 41 seconds, exactly 40 seconds faster than the chasing pack. Proof of the 42nd qualifying race win for son Ian Mostert, with father Vanna reading the notes. Minute was second, followed by the close battle between Teron de Wit and Van Rensburg. Qualifying is one thing, as it determines how you start the race. It's important, but not as important as how you finish the race. And unfortunately for Ian and his father Vanna, the Mosterts were not able to carry their qualifying pace through to the end of the race, with bad luck costing them loads of time. They eventually finished in 4th and 20 minutes faster than the 5th and final placed Francois and Neil de Wit. This left us with the battle for the Class G podium spots. Halfway through the race, there were only seconds separating the Motonetics racing crew of Glenn Turon and Craig Galvin, and Ewald van Rensburg and Johan Schippers. The two crews traded blows every few kilometers, but when the flag was waved, it was Turon who beat van Rensburg by just 94 seconds, and that over a race that lasted for nearly 400 kilometers. That fight, however, was only for the second step of the Class G podium. Up ahead, Jeff Minott and Rodney Burke had their own agenda. The Hydropie equipment crew were chasing the elusive double and was hoping to make it 2 out of 2 after also winning round 4 the day before. Minott is an old dog who knows all the tricks and once again delivered a near faultless performance to claim yet another victory of nearly 17 minutes. The men were happy, to say the least.
Incredible, unbelievable. Rodney, ever since he sat in the car, number 1 is it. So we're really very excited.
The victory also meant a bit of a streak for Rodney Mumbles Burke. The experienced Navi only recently joined forces with Minott and has been standing on the top step ever since.
I'm going to get very used to this, hey, Jeff. No, it's going to be 4 for 4, then 5 for 5, and I just don't see how we're going to stop at this race. Thanks to the team for the car, it's perfect. Our sponsors for getting us here, the organisers and the supporter. What a weekend. And obviously this man here that keeps it wheel rubber down all the time. Very neat, very tidy, and what a blast.
The official results showed the names of Minott and Burke at the top once again, ahead of Turon and Galvin, and Van Rensburg and Schippers. The Mosterts lost a few points on the day with their 4th place finish. From little purpose-built racing machines to massive purpose-built racing machines with huge wheels and big V8 power plants. This is Class A of the special vehicle category, where in recent times one man reigned supreme. Defending champion Tim Howes and Navi Gary Campbell have been the dominant force in Class A, and started round 5 as the odds-on favourite following their round 4 victory the day before.
Hopefully it's slightly more technical. Our cars don't really enjoy what they call milli field racing, so hoping we can go into some mountains and some rocks.
After the short Pirelli qualifying race, it appeared that Haas would have his work cut out as the results looked on course for a major upset, with Alcia de Jager and Rickus Hutting in their Porter claiming victory. They finished the short course 27 seconds ahead of their nearest competitors in the form of John Thompson and Maurice Zamatin in their Zarco Challenger. But it was a close run affair for second place, as Tim Howes and Gary Campbell were just 7 seconds behind in 3rd place in Class A. Round 5 also saw the return of the popular Macanetti brothers, Keith and Andrew, who went 4th fastest in their Bat Macmobile. The results showed that Howes missed out on John Thompson's 2nd spot by just 7 seconds, but what a blistering performance by Alcia de Jager and Rickus Hutting, who stormed to the qualifying race win by a full 27 seconds. But then the race happened, and it turned out to be a disastrous one for many of the men who enjoyed a successful run during qualifying. One such crew was John Thompson and Maurice Zamatin, who started well but were forced to retire their Zarco Challenger during the first of the day's 2 racing loops. And absolute heartbreak for Alcia de Jager and Rickus Hutting, who were chasing their first ever victory in Class A after qualifying in pole. But they too saw the ugly side of Lady Luck when they were forced to park their Porter on the side of the road. So the Parys 400 turned into a welcome return to the sport for the popular Macanetti brothers, Keith and Andrew, who survived the tough route to reach the end of the race in their trusty old Macmobile. They were rewarded with a 2nd place for their efforts, which meant only one thing: Mr. Consistency did it again. Although most of the competitors fell by the wayside, Tim Howes and Gary Campbell did exactly what they had to do as they stormed yet another comfortable Class A and Special Vehicle category win. A sad-looking Class A leaderboard for all the names who weren't on it, but another great result for defending champions Howes and Campbell, with the Macanettis making a welcome return. And this is what it was all about, the taste of success on the Class A podium.
Another good day for us, really good fun. The car was missing a bit. I'm not sure really what's wrong. It felt like it was running on 7 cylinders. It was coughing and spluttering. But like always, we just get it to the end, and if we get it to the end, we do nicely. So that's exactly what we did.
That was all the action from the majority of the classes and categories of the Parys 400, round 5 of the South African Rally Raid Championship. Only one question still remained: who was going to win the overall race? Everyone knew that the overall winners would be behind the wheel of a Premier Class T1 Plus machine, but which one? It would have been clever to put your money on Henk Ladekan following his dominant performance and victory a day before, with the TGRSA driver hoping to put in a repeat performance.
I think qualifying is going to be quite important again because it's really dusty around here, so you'd want to pick a nice road position.
One can never disregard the old hand of TGRSA teammate Janelle de Villiers, who finished second on the previous round.
We just got to try and keep it clean, not make any mistakes, because these kind of races you can't make a lot of time, but we'll try our best again today and see where we finish.
It's probably not even necessary to state the obvious, but as with any other race, fans could once again expect to witness the bitter rivalry between the red corner and the boys in blue. Here's Ford's Gareth Woolridge just before the start of qualifying.
We've got to try and do more of the same as yesterday. Our second loop was a lot better. We made good time back. So we've got to try and keep that pace today, keep the momentum in this event.
Brother Lance Woolridge was keen to bounce back after a luckless round 4 the day before.
Yeah, we've got to go flat out today, try to score maximum points, help Gareth out and get ourselves back in the championship a bit.
Once again, the scene was set for an epic battle on the Free State farmlands between SA's best drivers and some of the best off-road racing machines on the planet. But first, the small matter of qualifying, which was probably more important on this event than on most others due to the dust factor. At 7:30 on the Saturday, Henk Ladekan and co-driver Brett Cummings launched their Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hilux into the Pirelli qualifying race as the first car on the road. But they also made the most of the opportunity, setting the fastest time over the short route. They completed the 18 kilometers long course in just 9 minutes and 19 seconds, which should have seen them well ahead of their nearest competitors. For sheer Blickner and brother Battis, however, had a different agenda. The Lofeld pairing went second fastest in the qualifier, finishing just 4 seconds adrift of the lead in their brand new Team Hilux Toyota T1 Plus. This was a moment of glory for both them, but especially for driver Fashier, who rolled the new car during a shakedown on Thursday before the race. The team managed to repair the car in time for Friday's 4th round, but it was at the start of round 5 where the brothers clearly hit their stride. They were followed home by the NWM Ford Castrol team's range of Gareth Woolridge and co-driver Boyd Dreyer, who rounded out the qualifying podium. Though they lagged 15 seconds behind the flying Team Hilux crew. Times were close, very close in fact, as 18-year-old Sahud Variawa along with Donnie Stassen set the exact same time as Woolridge, with TGRSA teammates Guy Bottrell and Zahir Bodania just a further second adrift. Class T1 Plus is a packed place to be in, with several more drivers all in contention. Drivers like Gary Berthold, who went 5 seconds faster than the Team Hilux crew of brothers Johan and Van Horn, who in turn beat the Redline Motorsport Rev of Chris Visser and Blicky Sventer, also by a margin of just 5 seconds. Visser in turn was followed by the NWM Ford Castrol team of Lance Woolridge and Kenny Gilbert, who were matched by the Ford of Vos Prinsloo and Andre Vermeulen. Exciting stuff. And here are the numbers which revealed a bit of drama. Ladekan was a few minutes late in leaving the pits after qualifying and received a 5-minute penalty as a result. When this was added, his name tumbled down the leaderboard, leaving the Blickner brothers to claim the qualifying race victory ahead of Gareth Woolridge and a string of Toyotas driven by Variawa, Bottrell and Berthold. Fans were in for a treat as the main race of the Parys 400 had all the makings to be an epic one. There was new blood at the front of the field, with the Blickno brothers bouncing onto the scene. There was the age-old battle between red and blue. There was Lartigan, who had to stage a comeback from behind following his penalty. And there were around 10 more cars in the Premier class, all wanting to make their mark. Unfortunately for the men from Witbank and Mpumalanga, their dream of winning from pole position turned into a nightmare when their team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux suffered terminal damage to its gearbox late in the first loop, bringing an end to their hopes of a good result. The same fate befell Rally Raid stalwart Chris Visser and Albertus Venter, when they too were forced to park their Redline River on the side of the road. And speaking of retirements, the Horn brothers from Malalan added their name to the list of non-finishers late in Loop 1. The culprit? A broken steering arm in their Team Hilux Rally Raid machine. Time to move on to the ones who did in fact reach the end of a tough Parys 400. The race had a wonderful international flavour to it, with 2 overseas visiting crews all reaching the finish in their Class T1 Plus cars. The Belgian and Dutch crew of Stefan Karmans and Arjan van Til were classified 11th in class in their new Redline Motorsport Revo, and were beaten to the line by the identical car of young lady driver Alia Kolok and local lad Rian Grelling. And what started as a promising weekend in which Vos Prinsloo and Andre Vermeulen showed great pace turned into somewhat of a nightmare, with more technical issues slowing their progress and forcing them to settle for 9th place. Competition is tough in Class T1 Plus, as was evident by stalwart Gary Berthold's 8th place finish. The former multiple race winner and Henry Cohen experienced a few setbacks along the way and were happy to record a finish. Just more than a minute ahead of them was the monstrous Century Racing CR6 in the hands of Big Dog Lance Strathui and Adrian Ritz. The King Price Extreme crew did a great job of bringing the car home in tough competition, especially taking into account that it's still a rear-wheel drive only machine. And it seems like Lance is one of the names to have if you want to make it big in the world of rally raid racing. Next up, another Lance. Woolridge is his surname, and after missing out on the day before, the NWM Ford Castrol crew of Woolridge and Kenny Gilbert would have been pleased to achieve a point-scoring finish, although they would have had their sights set on a higher placing. We're now nearing the business end of the race, with 5 crews still in the hunt for the top 5 positions. These 5 crews consisted of no less than 4 TGRSA crews in the form of Bottrell, Lartgun, De Villiers and youngster Variawa, and the remaining NWM Castrol Ford of Gareth Woolridge. The Parys 400 was only young Variawa's 3rd ever national rally raid race, while 2nd if you take into account that he missed most of the race the day before. Variawa and Stassen endured a few navigational difficulties that cost them precious time, but the young man undoubtedly showed his talent and speed. A good sign for the future. They eventually ended 5th on the overall standings. Round 4 winners Henk Lartigan and Brett Cummings had their hopes dashed early in the day thanks to a 5-minute penalty they received after qualifying. This sent them tumbling down the order even before the starting flag dropped, and they were on the back foot for the rest of the day. Despite the setback, they fought back to a fighting 4th place overall. Just 4 minutes and 58 seconds of the eventual winning time, leaving them to wonder what might have been, were it not for an errant sensor on the gearbox. Onto the podium, where Ford's Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer kept their championship hopes alive by bringing their Ford Ranger home in 3rd place overall. A solid performance, which was not without its challenges, stood them in good stead. And the pair will be heading to round 6 with high hopes for more of the same. The fight for the overall victory was therefore a battle between TGRSA teammates Janelle De Villiers and Dennis Murphy, and Guy Bottrell and Zahir Badania reading the notes, due to Bottrell's regular navigator Simon Vasey-Lyle not being able to make to Parys for the event. It was indeed a great battle, with neither crew willing to give an inch. De Villiers knew very well what winning feels like, while Bottrell, although a multiple rally champion, was chasing his first ever victory in rally raid racing. De Villiers lost time thanks to a puncture during qualifying, and this proved costly as, in the end, the Dakar legend lost the overall and 400-kilometer race by a mere 9 seconds. So the men of the moment were undeniably TGRSA's Guy Bottrell and stand-in Navi Zahir Badania. The crew drove a near-perfect race to give Bottrell his first SARRC win, and Bodania the biggest smile in the history of SARC racing. At the same time, Bottrell's regular navigator Simon Vasey-Lal would be frustrated that he was unable to be in the car for the winning moment. There it is, the final standings after the Parys 400, and it shows a maiden victory for Guy Bottrell and Zahir Bodania, just 9 seconds ahead of de Villiers and Murphy. Woolridge and Dreyer claimed the final podium spot, while Lartgun recovered well to finish in 4th ahead of Ariawa, who rounded out the top 5. This was the reward after a tough day's racing. The chance to celebrate from the coveted winner's podium, and the chance to taste the sweet taste of victory. It was a first and well-deserved one for Guy Bottrell.
Yeah, it's really good to win one. We've been picking up the pace every event a little bit more, and unfortunately Henk got the penalty, and we were just lucky enough to be in a position to capitalise.
That was that for the important Parys doubleheader. Just 2 more rounds now stand between the protagonists and the 2023 SA Rally Raid title. Next up, the Rally Raid circus moves to yet another Free State town when Welkom will play host to the penultimate round in early October. All the action from Parys was brought to you by Ford, Toyota and Pirelli.